Welcome to Security Nation, an ESA podcast that brings you the voice of electronic security and life safety. We bring on security pros to discuss the latest industry happenings, new technology, and best practices, telling your story to become the ever-present voice in an ever-changing industry. I'd like to introduce this episode's guests. We have Jennifer Doctor, Senior Director of Product Management at Johnson Controls. Then we have Mariam Rogers, Director of Multifamily Sales at Brivo, and Preston Grutzmacher, Residential Business Leader at SALTO Systems. Thanks for coming on the podcast today, y'all.
Hey, thank you for having us, Hannah. This is great.
Yeah.
Absolutely our pleasure.
Super excited.
We love being together, so we're going on tour.
I love it, Jennifer.
Exactly. So all of you have been on a panel together at the Electronic Security Expo in Fort Worth, June 2022. And you guys had the education session that went over top 5 factors before entering the multifamily market. It was a great session. I sat in on it. And while I was attending, I was thinking this would be some great content for the new podcast that we were just starting, Security Nation. And additionally, I'm hoping to maybe write an article to feature in our magazine. So I'm excited to get some more spicy tidbits to include. But I'm hoping we can kind of go over some of those things. So first of all, before we kind of jump into MDU, could each of you maybe tell our listeners a little bit about your background in the industry, your role? I guess let's start with Preston.
Perfect. So I work for SALTO Systems, and we're a manufacturer of smart locks and access control products. I've been in the industry for, a little over 5 years now in the smart locking industry, but I've been in the security industry my entire professional career, ever since I've been 22. So this is my space. I love it. I'm passionate about the kind of things that we're doing. I'm passionate about our market. I'm passionate about helping our customers get past these ancient technologies that they're using today that we all agree are ridiculous. I mean, a mechanical key is the easiest thing to look at and think, well, who in the world wants that experience? And all three of us at the table say nobody wants the experience of a mechanical key. We want something better. And we're finding ways to deliver it and get our customers excited. So a little over 5 years in the industry, passionate about this stuff, and happy to talk about it.
Fantastic. Jennifer, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm Jennifer Doctor. I am with Johnson Controls, though in the industry, most people know us under the brands that we own, including Qualsys, DSC. If you're in Europe, you know Visonic or Bentel. We also have a receiver line as SureGuard and a connectivity, a SIM connection product under our C24 brands. I've been in the industry a little over 10 years. I've worked for Johnson for almost 5 now, and I was with a large national dealer before that. I love what I do every day. Not only do I get to meet incredible colleagues like Preston and Mariam in my daily job, but every day a decision we make, a choice we do, literally means life or death. And that's very invigorating, and it makes you really focus and understand the true meanings of what you do and the purpose that you bring. On top of that, I am all about women in technology, so I'm thrilled. No offense, Preston, but I'm thrilled to be on another panel with Mariam because I love really smart women. And I can tell you, leading to her intro, she's one of the best.
Wow, Jennifer, thank you so much. I always am like, Preston brings so much energy and pizzazz to the stage. So I never want to go after him. And then those beautiful compliments, Jennifer. Likewise, we definitely work in a man's world, no offense, but it's nice to see that prop tech and security and multifamily are evolving, and you see more women in the roles in security. So I love that, Hannah, you're talking about security in multifamily specifically. And I am the director of multifamily for Brivo, which is a cloud-based access control company. I come from the owner operator side of multifamily, having grown up in the property management space. And so I think I bring a lot of unique information when it comes to the use cases of how technology and security can be adopted in multifamily. And so about 3.5 years ago, I decided to go from the operator side and jump over to tech. I wasn't planning on getting into security by any means. It's just the nature of how my career grew. And I couldn't be happier because there's such a need for it in multifamily, more than just like securing a building, but cybersecurity and making sure that an entire community is safe. And then how you get people in and out of buildings. So I'm really excited to be on this panel with everybody today and looking forward to helping educate our listeners.
Awesome. I'm very excited as well. So to jump right in, how would y'all describe the growth or the trends in the MDO market as of today? Anyone can take it away.
I can jump in. It's interesting because Yardi Matrix published an article the beginning of the year when it was talking about like new construction permits that are being pulled. And there's this steady trend for the next 5 years that on average, there's almost 400,000 units being built. And that's astronomical. So if you start looking at the growth of the vertical, there's a ton of opportunity that's available to adopt technology, but also knowing that the market is still trending in an upward way, right? So everything that happened with COVID, there was almost this recession of technology in most industry except for ours. Security was heightened, and then you also, in a way that was more like we need security in there. But multifamily and the rental space is recession proof. More people start renting when there's a recession. So I think it's great to see that it sustained the market and it's still growing steadily.
I think it's also worth mentioning that the multifamily market, it's not going to slow. There is still an incredible demand for housing in the United States that is going to continue to spur additional developments throughout the U.S. And not only will it spur additional developments, it spurs real creativity at multifamily developers. Mm-hmm. What I've started to see, especially over the last year or two, is if we were to look back, I think about when I was younger. So you have an apartment building and you have a condo building and you have a hotel. And those are the three types of things. Now it's not so simple. Apartment operators are getting smarter and they're getting more creative. They might have traditional 12-month leases. Wonderful. They might have traditional 12-month leases, and then they might have short-term rentals that they're running kind of like a contactless or concierge-less hotel. They might be running a building that's 90% traditional apartments, and then 20% that are co-living, where you're renting a bedroom in a small apartment with a large common area that's for the entire floor. So there's just this incredible amount of diversity that's starting to happen in the multifamily market. And it's leading to some really, really cool properties. And those really, really diverse applications start to ask a lot from companies like us on the panel. Because once you have diverse populations in your building with totally different use cases, then all of a sudden the demand on technology grows and we get better. So from
the beginning in our space, from how we've looked, we've always seen that any kind of multi-dwelling unit has three elements, right? There's the property automation itself, there's resident amenities and automation, and there's building securities. Before the last 3 years or so, these elements were treated as separate components in the environments. Now they've blurred into one. And that's really on top of the explosion in the rental market. And it's not just the U.S., Preston, right? We know the numbers are also hitting around the world. We're a global business with global products. So we see it, outside of the U.S. as well. But we're seeing those three components, the property, resident automations, and the building, we're seeing them merge into one solution request. And that's really where the true growth is for our industry. It's how do we work together, leveraging our strengths to bring them into the different types of properties that are growing.
Right. So now that we've kind
Agreed.
of,
Very well said.
yeah, no, you all hit the nail on the head. Now that we've kind of gone over like the growth potential, now let's go kind of a little bit more into the entering that potential portion of things. So what are some examples of go-to-market strategies and brands that may motivate buyers?
So I'll hit the light end because their solutions are slightly different in terms of some of the targets. For us, we've got to hit all the different elements in the value chain. So we've got the construction, that's planning to use products that we have from the beginning, while we promote mostly a wireless solution. There are environments and products where people want a hybrid of wireless and wired. That's got to be built in early into the solution and the discussions. Then we have the property management and what they need for their control, their environments. And we have a different type of marketing to that piece of the value. And then there's resident marketing, right? If you're not offering it at the holistic building, you're offering it at an individual unit. And now we're dealing with our traditional dealers and value chain that we're used to playing in that residential market. But you also want solutions that will work with the other solutions that are being developed and implemented, because when residents take that control, they're mixing and merging. So you do need some interoperability, and we have to market to all pieces in that value.
Right.
So it's a little bit different for us, because we're looking at the hardware and the software that goes with that, not offering the same kind of services that others offer.
Well, I think from just that marketing perspective, Jennifer, I'd like to build off of that, because if we were to rewind the clock in the security industry 10 years, your marketing spend would be directed entirely towards a security reseller, right? But what we've started to see in more recent years is a need to bring really qualified leads to our channel partners and keep their business going and make sure they excel at what they do. And one of the ways that we can do that is by marketing to the different types of organizations inside of multifamily, right? Marketing to developers, marketing to investors, marketing to general contractors, right? Because the more excitement that we can build with those organizations, the more demand we can create to supply our channel team. So I think just having that diverse net of who you're marketing your product to, because everybody wants something different. Mariam, you come from the property manager side.
Mm-hmm.
That's a totally different discussion to a property manager than it would be to a resident.
Yeah, that's such a great point, Preston. And Jennifer, you have so many different audiences, and you have to have a different talk track for whomever it is that you're speaking with. If you're talking to a property manager, their needs are different than the leasing agent, than the developer, than the owner. And you have to start looking at like, who are our customers? I mean, we're obviously selling security through channel partners, but we're also entering a space where people live in a home. The multifamily communities, it's where they live, they work. People are at home more often. So making sure that we know how to communicate on a one-page flyer or something to a resident that says, hey, welcome to your smart community. This is how you download the app. These are the devices that you're getting. And on the flip side of that, teaching a leasing agent the talk track of what is the incentive to the resident? What are those benefits and paybacks in why the developer chose to put in smart technology, right? So there's an entirely different set of skills when it comes to communicating the products to each of your different audience members. And you can't leave it up to our channel partners. They do a fantastic job, but you're talking about 100, 200, 300 people that is now your target audience in one given community.
But even within that 200 and 300, Mariam, like you're talking, you have different tracks on the rolls. There are different tracks based on the residents themselves. You know, if you're in an apartment, you know, a month-to-month rental, whether that month is 1, 3, 12, or 48, the products you bring in are potentially different than those if you're in a condo where you own, but you're in a shared space. And all of that can change if you're in a multi-unit dwelling of types that caters to a senior environment with that also has different automation needs tied into their security. So even while you're talking, you know, different types of buildings with different audiences of the value, now you also have to consider that end user adoption at the end and what their needs, and you have to be able to adjust your talking based on all of these audiences to really be truly present your value and what makes you unique and the better solution. So it's becoming more complex as we continue to grow. Well, and it's not the products, right? We can all build the products. It's the conversations of how to present these products.
Well, and it is being able to offer flexibility in that product stack that you're looking at, right? Because you might have a traditional multifamily community, but let's say 20% of them don't, that's probably too large of a number. A handful of them don't have a smartphone. So how are they getting into the building? What backup do you have when you don't offer a mobile credential? Is there a PIN code? Is there a fob? Because you do have a handful of people, you know, a handful that don't have a smart device that still feel more comfortable operating off of something that's more familiar.
Or worse yet, in my mother's case, she turns the phone on when she's making a phone call, not to get the phone calls the rest of the time. So
that's endearing. I love that.
Endearing is the right word.
Awesome. No, I think that was all great information, specifically going over how the customer looks very different a little bit in the MDO market. It's, I mean, it could be, like you were saying, the developer, the property manager. It could potentially be the investment firm in the space. And there's different conversation tracks depending on that person that you're targeting. Not sure if you wanted to add any more notes to that, but I was thinking about shifting gears and going a little bit more into information on Wi-Fi solutions. Do you see that being sold as a service to everybody in the building where there is Wi-Fi? Maybe in personal apartments, they still have to do a contract with whoever their provider is. How does this kind of complicate this situation?
Believe that managed Wi-Fi is the next frontier in prop tech for multifamily housing.
Amen, Preston. Amen.
I really think it's the next thing, and I'll say this because when I go into SALTO property, I say, look at the convenience that SALTO brings with guest entry and contactless openings. Those are great things, and there's a cost associated with them. And one of my things that I need to do as a salesperson is articulate that you can charge a higher renter. You're saving these other soft costs for the value of any of our solutions. But when we get to the world of managed Wi-Fi, all of a sudden, that property has a revenue source. A revenue source that is higher than the cost that they were giving out, that they were allowing traditional ISPs to have before. And I love the word managed Wi-Fi, even though my products don't work over Wi-Fi. I don't need Wi-Fi for most of my solution to work. But the truth is, if a building has managed Wi-Fi, and then they start to realize that they're getting charged $20 per unit from their ISP, and they're selling to each individual resident at $50, that's created $30 of revenue that they never had before per unit that helps fund and do some really cool things for some awesome other prop tech like everybody else here on the call. There's way more benefits than that. But on the very skin level, managed Wi-Fi is going to make it easier for properties to accept prop tech and the benefits that come with it.
Well, and a better resident experience,
No
right?
doubt about it.
Yeah,
Right.
every tech stack has to have a network that's reliable. And you want to be able to make phone calls in the elevator without dropping that call. You want to be able to be in the parking garage and be able to continue the conversation you were having in your car. And if you don't have managed Wi-Fi, then there's a high probability that calls are being dropped, that you're not being able to share your video on a call. You know, that you have to have an infrastructure that all of the tech stack can be layered upon. And if you start looking at things like smart fridges, smart washers and dryers, and what are those running off of? Wi-Fi. There has to be that backbone to keep everything and everyone connected.
And that
Yeah,
resonates.
the latest product in our portfolio is a Wi-Fi 6 router. And it's not what you would typically think of as a security manufacturer of devices, but it's the number one complaint we receive from our dealers who are constantly going back because they're being told products aren't working because the Wi-Fi signal isn't strong enough, or the strength isn't connected. You don't have that mesh network available. So we've really seen a growth in the Wi-Fi. In our case, we separate what technology we use for automations versus life safety devices versus life security devices. That's a purposeful choice on our part based on the strength of different technologies. But the underpinning is having that right Wi-Fi. And if the building can get the revenue choice, the building takes the ownership when there are challenges, which is really the biggest challenge in having a managed Wi-Fi is where's the one source. But if you resolve some of the business issues around this, it's going to make a difference in how buildings are used. I see it evolving to what a number of HOAs do. I live in a community with an HOA, and my cable is included. It is a better rate than I can get individually, but it's higher than a pooled rate would be. And I know that that difference in what the HOA receives is going to offset other costs, keeping my overall HOA fees lower. And I see managed Wi-Fi kind of becoming adopted to that kind of broad sense of a model.
Well, I don't know how many of you have purchased a house in the last year. I bought a house a year ago, Mother's Day. I moved in on a Sunday, and I work from home full time. I had to wait 4 days to get Wi-Fi. And in the meantime, I'm like, how in the world am I going to conduct business, be on phone calls? Do I go to, the local coffee shop to grab their Wi-Fi, or do I use my cellular network? So having instant Wi-Fi when you move in as a resident is paramount. Like, the experience is automatic. Like, I can't imagine the frustration. I know how I felt in one single family home. Now duplicate that times 200. You have residents who are not going to be happy if they have to wait 4 days for Wi-Fi.
I'm not happy hearing about your experience. So it's like, I think it's something that we can all relate to.
Oh yeah, when your internet goes down or your Wi-Fi goes down, I know more than once in my life I've literally run to the store to pick up another router immediately because I'm not waiting a day for a tech to come, right? Now
Yeah.
I just keep a couple in my house. But out of curiosity, how did you solve your problem?
I used my cellular data on my phone. I just didn't turn on my camera. I'm like, look, guys, I don't have Wi-Fi right now, and I'm working off my phone, and you don't want to see me like hovering, trying to conduct a call. And then, luckily, because of technology, I was able to call some of my counterparts at work and say, hey, can you present your screen and I'll drive? So it was a team effort, but it was so challenging and frustrating. And I didn't even have any of my Wi-Fi devices hooked up, obviously, but my kids are like, how do we watch TV? How do I run the Xbox? I'm like, no, we're back in the Stone Ages, kids.
Little House on the Prairie,
Go on, pack a box.
2020 version.
Oh, no, that's great. So we're kind of getting close towards the end of the podcast. So I have just kind of I think about 2 wrap-up questions. We covered a lot of information, but I guess if you had to like kind of concise it, compact it as much as you could, high-level advice that you would give to people out there considering jumping in the market, what should their first steps be?
Find a trusted partner.
Yes.
If your first partner is, and you're going to have many along your journey, but if your first partner is not one that you totally trust, that you feel has your back, that is putting your interests before their wallet, change. Because you're going to find partners that don't take certain actions, and you need somebody at the very beginning that is going to help you go through this process as a unit to benefit your goals, not theirs.
And to build off that, you're absolutely right. From the end user perspective, finding that trusted dealer is paramount.
Mm-hmm.
And from a dealer looking to enter the market, the truth is, like, we've already hinted at some of these points earlier, but when I started, you think, okay, who's the decision maker, right? But in multifamily housing, the decision maker can be really weird, right? It could be the developer. That makes the most sense. It's the most common. But we've all sold a project to a property manager that didn't come off like a tech expert.
Mm-hmm.
But they cared about their residents' experience above everything else and making a building easy to manage for their staff, right? Without being strong in technology. So, or it could have been an investment firm that talked about the payback over time or cloud fees versus on-premise fees. There's all these different buyers. They have very different questions and they come off very differently. So for dealers entering the market, don't write anyone off, right? Your next sale could come from a ton of different groups within any property.
Well, and I always love that, like, I'm going to challenge you to ask the competitors or whoever you're talking to a certain set of questions that are making sure that they are exactly what, Jennifer and Preston said, that they're legitimate, that they have the industry knowledge. Like, here's a subset of questions. Are they SOC compliant? How long have they been in business? Are they working off of startup fund, or they, are operating in the black? So just really be informative, ask the right questions to everybody, and interview everyone. It doesn't matter, like, even if it's me and I've done business with you, I want to teach you what's coming up in that space. Work with people who are knowledgeable of where that vertical is going from a tech stack, because there's so many new people and companies entering the market, which is great for us. It shows that there's a demand for what we're doing, but also, like, you can't rely on everybody at any given company that's selling to you to be an expert of all things technology. So you need to partner with people who understand the whole tech stack and the multifamily ecosystem as a whole.
Excellent. So I like to ask this question on all of our podcasts, because I just think this is an opportunity to just kind of get a vibe check on the industry. In your opinions, what do you think as of right now is the industry's biggest challenge that we're facing? And what, as the Electronic Security Association, which is the host of this podcast, what do you think the association's role is in this challenge? I don't know. Let's start with, I guess whoever wants to go can just take the mic.
I think from a hardware perspective, we all are feeling pain points of, supply chain. But really, I think that the biggest challenge is knowing the right services that make the most sense for what you're trying to build, and making sure that you're thinking long-term, future-proofing it. That's always going to be a challenge. And you look at how you can be competitive in the retrofit world with things that are now being developed today, and making sure that those value adds are future proofing as well, because everybody's asset eventually becomes a retrofit. So future proofing is the biggest component. I think that you have to all get on the same page, bridge the gap from development to operations, and make sure that you're getting the input of the on-site team when you're looking at building a new community.
I think ESA's biggest role in the multifamily tech ecosystem is all about education, right? When I meet with dealers and they've been so successful in commercial environments, they take the products, the skills, the techniques, and the pricing that they use in the commercial world, and they try to apply it to the multifamily world. And that's a tough sell, right? The multifamily world, we often have different products, different ways that we do things, different software platforms that are of a paramount importance, right? That we all work with. And understanding the different layers of the multifamily tech industry and which solutions fit into those layers, as opposed to jamming something else that you might have been comfortable with selling to a corporate campus into a 20-unit apartment building. Let me just tell you, we need ESA to educate our dealers and our channel partners just to make sure that we're on the same page here and understand how different multifamily is.
So my answer's a combination of both and maybe a little bit more. In terms of manufacturing, supply chain remains, a global issue. In terms of ESA, education is the foundation. But today, in nearing the end of 2022, we're also facing market economic pressures. And there's a large job for all of us to explain. We know that in economic challenging times, residential homes, whether they're rental or homeowner, security is viewed as discretionary. It's not. Your PSP subscription is discretionary. Your Hulu subscription is discretionary. But your security is everything about who you are. So ESA, in terms of helping present the education and the awareness of the value of what all of us bring, is beyond necessary right now for the industry to come out ahead. Finding ways to present the specific nuances of the different markets to Preston's view helps us. What renters are looking for today in a very tight rental market, even in a tight economy, is very different than what they were looking for pre-COVID. It's very different than what they're going to be looking for in 3 years. Future-proofing today, which, by the way, Mariam, we're all into retrofit and future-proofing. That's why we have a few different RF technologies we use, right? But future-proofing today is ever-changing. And understanding, for us right now, the interoperability discussion is all the rage because of some changes in technology happening. It's hard to know what's going to be the next one in 2 years, but the education on the value of everything we bring is what's going to be critical. And ESA keeping us all informed and helping to train the next generation is critical for all of our success. As a bonus, taking a view of the young people who don't know enough about our industry to join, but if they join, they're in for the greatest ride, and targeting bringing more women into our industry. If you go to any of the industry events, like the ESX show, which we had a great time, it's heavily dominated by men. And, we have a lot of solutions that can come from the growing women in the space. We need to encourage more involvement and more actions there. And ESA has the voice and the authority to do this and help all of us. And we appreciate everything you and the team there do every day.
That's great. Thanks for each and every one of you, everything that you contributed. Yeah, I mean, I see humans as wells of potential, and we as an industry just need to find a way to tap into more of those wells. You know, women, younger people, just diversify, bring more people in, because think of how many more new strategies, technologies, innovations that we would be able to create if we just get more people involved and realize what a great industry this is that we're a part of. I'd just like to thank all of you again for coming on the podcast today. This is great. I'm super excited to get this out. And I hope to see you all at ESX next year. I'm not sure if we will, I don't know, but I'm just going to put it out there because I hope to see you again. It would be great to do another education session, maybe related to this, maybe something different. But yeah, thanks again for coming on.
Hey, the three of us are doing the road show, so we'll come up with some topics, and we like working together. Both professionally and personally, we've formed some relationships. So thank you for the opportunity to bring that to us.
Amen. Well said, as always, Jennifer.
Absolutely. So I think we're ready to close out. Thank you, listeners who tuned in. Make sure to subscribe. We're on all podcasting platforms, and the full video version of this episode is available on YouTube. And if you're curious about how ESA membership can power your business, please visit our website at esaweb.org. Take some time to schedule a discovery call with our membership team. If you're not already a member, you'll be happy you did. And always feel free to reach out if you just want us to support the industry in some way or get involved. We're happy to, connect you with other people for an initiative, get involved in jurisdictions, initiatives, whatever. We're happy to help. Feel free to just start the conversation. We'll listen to you. Have a great day, Security Pros.